Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the most overlooked trade to this point in the NBA offseason. There haven't been a ton of trades, maybe slightly less than I had hoped that there would be through the first 2 days of trades this offseason. However, this particular trade, amongst what has been relative craziness, at least in terms of the names that have been being moved around, is a trade that certainly has been overlooked, and it can have a significant impact on not only the Portland Trailblazers, but in much sneakier ways on the Houston Rockets as well. And that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. But quickly, before we get started, typical intro stuff, like the video, subscribe if you're looking for consistent NBA content. But the one thing I have to plug is this evening is the NBA draft, and at 8 p.m. on Twitch, not on this YouTube channel, but over on Twitch, I will be live streaming during the NBA draft, doing a just chatting stream, talking to you guys, reacting to everything that's happening in the draft as it's happening. And then, of course, once the draft is over, I will begin working on my typical like winners and losers or what we learned in the NBA draft type video that kind of reviews the whole thing. So if you're interested in hanging out during the draft tonight, again, that is 8 p.m. Eastern time over on Twitch, twitch.tv/spolo_TD. We'll all be hanging out as we watch the draft. I'd love to see you guys there. With those things said, let's go ahead and get into the video and talk about Robert Covington being traded to the Portland Trailblazers. This is a deal that came a bit out of nowhere because to this point we've been told that the Rockets were planning on running it back with James Harden and Russell Westbrook and just kind of seeing how this roster would work. That is a plan that before we knew about the Westbrook and Harden trade requests, that was what I was thinking they were going to do, when Robert Covington was going to be a pretty big part of that. He's a guy that can defend and can shoot and was a significant part of that Houston roster, someone that they went out to go and get to change up their roster to do this ultra small ball thing that they did after trading away Clint Capella. However, they ended up moving him to Portland in exchange for essentially 2 first-round picks. First, let's talk about this for Portland. I think you could make the argument that this is the best move that any team has made to this point in the offseason as it relates to value that they gave up in the trade and how much the player helps them and how badly they needed that type of player. I think that is this big of an A+ for Portland, assuming that Robert Covington stays healthy. This is the kind of player that this Trailblazers roster has needed quite literally forever. They've lost a couple of guys on the wing that have helped them in the past, guys like Al-Farouq Aminu, but they've never had a wing with the 3-and-D caliber of Robert Covington. Now, I'm not saying that Robert Covington is going to go and be an all-star for this team or anything, but they've always needed someone on the wing that can defend and can shoot at a high level, and that's exactly what Robert Covington can provide for this team. And when you're looking at the compensation, it's really not all that significant. Yes, it's their pick in the first round of this draft. I believe that falls somewhere around number 16. And then they're giving up a future pick as well, but that appears to be protected for the 2021 draft. And I don't anticipate that being that big of a deal. Either they're going to be good and the protection won't matter, or they'll fall within the protection and then they'll, give them something else down the road that is not a first round pick. So at the end of the day, if you're Portland, I don't see how this could be any better of a move. It's not like they're giving up huge assets. They gave up Trevor Ariza, who's a guy that, it fills a similar role to Covington, but much more poorly. And Robert Covington is a huge get for this team. I'm not saying that they're suddenly going to be like a top 4 seed in the West or anything, but this has been a need on this roster quite literally forever. And now they've got Damian Lillard, they've got TJ McCollum, Robert Covington, insert whoever the 4 is going to be here, and then Jusuf Nurkic. And that 4 spot is something they could potentially go out and get this offseason with their mid-level exception. Maybe they're looking at someone like Paul Millsap. They've got options there in Portland to put together a roster that should be better than the one that they had last year. And given the circumstances they came into this offseason with, I think just that is certainly an accomplishment for this group, and we'll see what they continue to do this offseason. Meanwhile, for Houston, I think most people are looking at this and being a little bit confused, and that's where I'm at as well, because when I initially saw this, I had 3 thoughts. The first was, why are they trading Robert Covington if they just want to run it back with Russell Westbrook and James Harden? Because you can't really pick a player that you'd rather have on this roster than Robert Covington if you're keeping both James Harden and Russell Westbrook. So my thought was, if that was their plan, why would they trade Covington? So maybe that isn't their plan. Second part of this was, maybe it's quite simply a cost-saving move. We know that this new owner in Houston wants to save some money, especially with what's going on in the NBA right now as it relates to revenue and salary cap and luxury tax and things like that. And maybe this is simply a cost-saving move. Ariza is on an expiring contract for next season, while Covington still had 2 more years left on his deal. They're worth about the same per year, but maybe he just wanted to save some money and get out of the extra year of Covington's contract and get those 2 picks as well. More than likely, though, in my opinion, it's just going to be the 16th pick in this draft. Or they're trying to accumulate as many assets as they can in preparation for a potential James Harden and or Russell Westbrook trade. That's the three reasons that I can see why the Rockets would do this, and it would make some semblance of sense, is that they are just looking to, stockpile these assets and make up for the fact that they don't have their own picks. Yeah, maybe they could flip them for another player, but again, if you're looking at ideal fit, I don't really see a much better fit there in Houston than Robert Covington. So it has to be about the other assets. It has to be about the cost saving. It has to be about the first round picks. And getting the 16th pick in this draft is not a small deal by any means, but I think, if you're just exchanging Robert Covington for the 16th pick, you can probably do a little bit better than that, which makes me think that there are other motives here for Houston. So I'm not saying that this is the case, and I haven't really addressed this on the channel lately because things seem to change daily, but I think if you're gonna kind of glean something from this, saying that this preps them potentially for a James Harden trade, I don't think is the wrong take. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I don't think that is an inaccurate take here at this point, given what we know that Houston could be ramping up for a James Harden trade by accumulating more assets in exchange for someone like Robert Covington, because I don't know why they would trade him if they were just going to run it back next year. So I don't know what's happening in Houston. I don't know what their plan is. I don't know where they're trying to go from here. It's either going to be something that's going to happen overnight, or it's going to be something that we're going to be dealing with for the next couple of weeks, or at a certain point, as we get closer and closer to the start of next NBA season. Houston continues to be the most interesting team of the offseason. But again, I think this is a really, really underrated deal, specifically for Portland. And then, like I said, in sneakier ways, you could kind of, learn some things here about Houston's thought process as well as a result of this trade. So we'll see what either of these teams continue to do. I really think that this is a trade that needs to get a little bit more love, and that's why I wanted to make a video about it today. But yeah, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, we skipped the regular intro stuff, like, subscribe, Twitch, Twitter, Discord, all that stuff. Tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time, I really want to get a lot of guys in here just talking about the draft, talking about everything that's going to be going on potentially tonight. We already had a Knicks trade not long ago where they traded a pick to move up in this draft. I think there's going to be a lot of movement and shaking going up and down in this draft board, and there's going to be a lot of stuff to keep track of. So if you guys want to come hang out with me and the rest of chat during the NBA draft tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Twitch, twitch.tv/spolo_TD. And as always, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. Hope you're enjoying the content lately. If you have missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen right here. With all of this being said, I will see you all next time.